we actually found an issue because yesterday my dam was a little bit off on my access port, and we see that we have a bit of an oil leak. So you can see right over there, and there's a bunch over here, and there was some on the skid plate on the inside. Where is it? Right over there. Yesterday I was cruising on the highway and we got a bit of a reading on the dam. So a dam dropped from 1 to 0.812, and a little bit on the feedback knock as well. So I see a pretty big oil spill over here. I'm thinking it might be our stock inlet right over here, this big old plastic piece. So maybe something had bursted. I spoke to someone on Instagram and they told me that they're running about the same amount of boost as I am, along with pretty much the same mods. So he said that his turbo inlet actually cracked, and that's what caused him some issues. So we're gonna see if that's the case with this as well. But since we're down here anyway, we're gonna install a turbo inlet. But that could be our root problem. Yeah, there's oil everywhere, all over the coupler over here, also on our bypass valve or our blow-off valve. Yeah, we're gonna try and figure this out and see what the cause of this is. All right, so I just actually removed this coupler, and there's a whole bunch of oil leaking out of here. So it might actually be our stock inlet. That's crazy, man. There's a lot of it. Holy crap. So far I don't see any cracks in it, but when we remove it, we might be able to tell a little bit better. Stock turbo inlet is off. We got the turbo all sealed up with a rag there just so nothing goes in. So this is our stock turbo inlet, and I can't really confirm if this is the issue. We have a bunch of oil in here and stuff, so that's not looking good, but I don't really see any cracks in it. The only thing I could kind of see is like right over here in this little crevice. It looks like there is a bit of oil that might have came out of there. I honestly can't really tell, but I don't know if this is actually the issue. We're still going to replace this since we're here, because it does tend to be a faulty unit. There's a ton of oil in here as well. You see how like shiny it is and stuff. That one's like the clearest way that you could see it. Since we're here and we have this whole thing disassembled, normally I had 4 washers in the TurboXS blow-off valve. So we're gonna go ahead and add another one just to kind of fix up the idle a little bit, because it's been a little bit rough. So just gonna add that right on top, put it in there, and close it all up. All right, so before we get any more into that, we're gonna assume that the issue is the turbo inlet. So I'm just gonna show you guys the Perrin one a little bit. So this is all the accessories that it comes with, all the worm gear clamps. We got an Allen key, a bunch of different hose fittings and plastic pieces, some screws there, and their good old license plate frame, along with some instructions there. And then we have the actual turbo inlet here. We decided to get it in red. So this is it. This is where all the accessories plug in, all the hoses and things like that, all the different nozzles. So definitely a bigger opening than the stock turbo inlet. So we got that there. And then we have the actual piece that mounts up to the turbo. We just have to reuse our stock rubber gasket that goes around our stock turbo inlet, and we should be good to go. So I'm going to go ahead and assemble this right. Alright, so this is what we did. So we went ahead and put this piece on the end. We have a worm gear clamp on it. We have our O-ring, or our little rubber gasket thing that was on the OEM turbo inlet. So we got that. We got all these little plastic little valve pieces, whatever you want to call them, together with the little worm gear clamps. Alright, so those are all on. There also comes this 90-degree fit-in that normally goes on right over here, but I don't think we're going to need it. That's where our boost controller goes. So we have the Grimmspeed one, and I think we just mount it right up. I just kind of test fitted it, and I think that's how it's supposed to go. We have our other worm gear clamp, the smaller one, on the other side, and I don't know if we're actually going to need that, because we are going to have to cut this a little bit right around here, I believe, because we do have an aftermarket intake. But so far, this is the assembly. So we're going to go underneath the car and try and mount this up. So another thing I want to point out, if you have an aftermarket electronic boost control solenoid, in this case I have a Grimmspeed one, this is how you get it to fit on. So the Perrin kit comes with this 90-degree adapter thing, so you don't need this. We're going to put this to the side. This actually just slips right on, and I had to do a couple of things to kind of get this to fit properly. So this little bracket right over here that connects these two pieces together, I basically disassembled it and had to bend it a little bit more. You see how there's a little bit of a bend right there, just like that. So I had to basically bend it a tiny bit more just so that we have the proper clearance. Just very little. So all I did was heat this little bracket up, bend it just a tiny bit more so it's more towards 90 degrees. It's not exactly 90, but it's bent a little bit more towards that. So we did that. Now we have clearance basically on the bottom side over here, so that this piece, this bottom piece, isn't touching the hose, like the part where it goes into over here. So we do have that tiny bit of clearance. I don't know if you guys can see that. It's kind of hard to explain, but yeah, we basically did that. We had to turn this worm gear clamp facing down, just because this thicker part over here was making contact with the bottom of this plate. So you just turn it out, you have your proper clearance, and this is good to go. So yeah, that's how you install an aftermarket electronic boost control solenoid on this. So now we can move to the bottom of the car. Alright guys, so upon further inspection, I've been looking at everything underneath the car, everywhere where I found oil. Basically the biggest culprit is our stock turbo inlet. So I looked everywhere. I wiped off all the oil that was around the blow-off valve, the charge pipe over here, some of the hoses over here. You can see that they're kind of shiny a little bit, so they still have a little bit of oil on them. Nothing up top over there. There was a bunch in this little, I forget what this is called, like a crankcase hose or something. So there's a bunch basically localized around the stock turbo inlet, so I'm thinking that that's the culprit. There might be some sort of very minor crack that I just can't see, I can't pick up, but everything seems to kind of point to that. So this might have been very, very clutch that we just got this, because I didn't get this knowing that there was a leak. My check engine light, not my check engine light, my dam actually went down yesterday just a little bit, and I figured, you know what, let me go ahead and take this apart since I have the Perrin turbo inlet anyway, and you know, who knows, I'm probably going to do a little bit of a follow-up. I'm going to check up on this again in about a week after I do install it and see if there is any more oil leaks. If not, then this is probably the most clutch part grab that I've ever gotten, because that's like, you know, what are the odds of that, knowing that a part was going to fail, or not knowing that a part was going to fail and just having it on hand already. So I'm going to start with the mock-up, and then I'm going to go ahead and give this a little bit of a trim and fit it onto our Mishimoto intake. Alright, so hopefully this is a good camera angle for you guys. So one thing that Perrin mentioned, if you do have a 2017 plus model, which mine is a 2017, in this this hose right over here, there's a little pin right in this little section right over here. So you guys can see that right there. So you're supposed to get a set of needle nose pliers and basically pull this out, and I think you're supposed to put it to the side, or they say that you should basically cover this up with electrical tape. So I'm going to go ahead and remove this and then go step by step from there, because I actually forgot what I'm supposed to do after that. Let's see if we can grab this. I hear it's kind of tricky. Oh, there we go. Actually, that wasn't too bad. So this is what it looks like right there. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and read the rest of the instructions. Alright, so it says to locate the metal jumper pin inside, which we did, and remove it with pliers. Place the male type pin into female plug on wire harness inside. I'm not exactly sure which wire harness they mean. It shows a picture of it right over here. Let me go take a look at which one that is. Alright, so I had to pull up the colored version of the Perrin instructions just to see which wiring harness they mean to put that little clip in. So it shows that the wires are blue. One of them is blue and the other one is white with a black stripe. I couldn't actually find any of those, but I did find that it fit right into this connector right over here. It's this gray one. So I don't know if that's correct, but it did fit right in. It didn't fit into the other one, so I'm guessing this is the one. Alright, so don't make fun of me. I'm going to do some very conservative cutting first. I know that I'm pretty far away from where I should be cutting it, but I'm a little scared. So I'm just going to cut here first and slowly move in once I kind of made it all up. Wow, this is like the worst cut ever. I think I'm just going to use like a scissor or something. There's a metal piece in here, that's why. Dang. Well, that is garbage. Alright, so we cut the inlet to a length that I think is pretty appropriate. So that's looking good. One thing that we did do, we actually took off the worm gear clamps that come with the inlet, and we're actually going to use the ones that come with my Mishimoto intake instead. They seem to be a little bit thicker, so I think they're going to do the job a little bit better. And also I took it off just so we can adjust this so that it mates up with the turbo just perfectly. Alright, it is day 2 because yesterday started raining. So we're going to go over this and kind of how we set everything up because I couldn't really film everything. So first and foremost, do not listen to Perrin's instructions when it tells you how much to cut this. I actually went a little bit further out than what they said because according to their picture it shows the Perrin logo. It said to cut around here. I went further out and it's still pretty close. So this clamp right over here I had to put way to the edge right up over there because I didn't cut it straight either because there was like a metal wire in here, so you can't really cut through it. So when you're using your razor blade, it kind of like takes you in that direction, like kind of angled backwards. So make sure you keep more of this because this is not the best right now, but I think it'll hold. So that's 1. 2, for all my 2017 plus guys, so we have this little piece right over here that goes over the crank hose. This came off of this hose right over here. All right, so this normally goes into your stock turbo inlet, and there is a chip over here as well, right over here, that comes in there. So we basically took that out with some needle nose pliers, right? We took that out and then we put it in this wiring harness. So you have your wiring harness, so this connects to your boost controller, right? And then this other one is normally used and it connects right into this piece. However, since we're not using this piece, we remove this, we remove the chip, and then we put that little chip connector thing right in here, and then the directions state that you should basically wrap it up in electrical tape just so that you don't get any water in there and damage anything. So we've got that. We've got everything else here. We had some extra worm gear clamps from our Mishimoto kit, from our Mishimoto intake. So we basically put them onto the hoses up over here. So you didn't need to do that. Mishimoto says that you could put zip ties, but just to be safe, and because I have it, I figured that that'll be a little bit more high quality. It should be able to hold a little bit more boost that way, so we don't get any lines popping off on us or anything like that. So we basically have everything zip tied. I just have one more zip tie to put right over here on the blow-off valve, and we should be good. No real problems that I encountered. I mean, with the boost controller, we made it fit too. I showed you guys how to bend that bracket. Again, we have a worm gear clamp there as well. We should be good. So I'm basically gonna go ahead and zip tie up that hose. We're gonna disconnect the battery. We should have done it earlier, but whatever, just as a reset, I'm gonna disconnect it and we're gonna start up the car and see if we have any leaks or anything like that. Alright, so we went ahead and turned the car off. One thing that I'm unsure of is that when we turned the car on the access port, the air-fuel ratio didn't read out, and I know that it's due to that connector, so we took that pin out and basically put it into one of the those wires that you saw before with the needle nose pliers, and we put it in there, and it's supposed to kind of trick the sensor into thinking that it's still on, but it doesn't actually read out. So I'm not exactly sure if I'm doing this correct. I also did get a little bit of oily smoking at the bottom, just very little, but I'm gonna try turning it on again and see what happens. Oh wait, oh, it's working now. Okay, cool. Alright, awesome. Yeah, so before it didn't work because I had reset the battery, I guess, but now it's actually reading out. Before, this number was just staying there, so we're gonna let it run for a little bit. I'm gonna check for some more leaks again, and then I'm gonna have somebody rev up the car, and again, we're gonna check for some more leaks. Hopefully we don't throw any codes. Alright, so there doesn't seem to be any leaks, but you guys could see here that bit of smokiness. I think it's coming from that hose right over there, I think. I'm just gonna keep looking it over. I think it's stopping, but I'm gonna keep wiping down this area. There might be a little bit more oil here, like there's a little bit right there. So I'm just gonna wipe it down as best as I can. All right, so one thing that we did, we went ahead and pulled this hose, the crankcase hose, down a little bit more, and I think it wasn't sealed properly, so we put it down all the way, tightened up the worm gear clamp right over there, and now there is no more smoke. We wiped everything up. Everything seems to be running good. Let's go back into the inside of the car, check the air-fuel ratio, and then we'll give it some revs. Our AFR is looking pretty smooth. Car started up a lot better. I think that's what it really was because I disconnected the battery, so we just had to let it kind of get used to it a little bit. But yeah, so far, no check engine lights. We're gonna let it keep running. and then it'll be rev time. All right, so now we're gonna be feeling for some leaks.
I don't feel anything there. Let's see on the turbo side. Nothing there. Nothing there. Keep going. And nothing there. We seem to be good.
Well, guys, that's it for the Perrin Turbo Inlet install. We got that taken care of. I'm pretty sure that it was the turbo inlet, the stock turbo inlet. Again, I can't confirm it because I don't see any actual cracks on it, but we saw how much oil was in it. We saw how flexible it was as well. So I think that really did it. So if you guys are running a higher boost application, or you have a higher boost WRX or Forester, in my case a Forester, you might want to look into getting this piece. Thank you guys so much for watching the video, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Take care now. Peace.